Let's go! We finally get this video done. So, if you're a healer, caller, or run a guild, and this is the only video of mine you watch, I'll be happy. I mean, I prefer you watch them all, but hey, if you're only going to watch one, glad it's this one. So, healing sickness is one of those things that zergs just kind of say, we're going to have it, and ignore it and keep moving. However, with the recent Q change, you're going to want to manage it, because healing received not only affects healing, obviously, it also affects shielding if you didn't know. So if you notice, your soak since the most recent update has gotten a lot worse. Things like your Oathkeeper, your Arcanes, your Rootbound, all those shields are also getting affected by this debuff that your holies are holding hostage now. And that debuff depends on how many people are healing a target. So just for quick math here, let's just say 4 healers are healing somebody. They're getting 43% less heals, and they're getting 43% less shields. So once you understand kind of how bad healing sickness is, you can already see, hey, our heals are now not good, and now our shields are not good. So our soak has suddenly become not good, because we're not managing this. So let's talk about how to manage it. First, let's talk about the shielding part, because a lot of people don't even understand that healing sickness affects shielding. So if you're a numbers person, I've included the math on the screen, but I know majority of people aren't, so I'm not going to talk about it and dwell on that. You can look at it if you want. I started with a shield of 2 bars, and I get the self-healing sickness debuff of 40%, which means I would have 1.2 bars of shield if it gets affected. And there you go. Easy. One thing to note, it's actually the 3rd heal that gets cut. It's not the 1st or 2nd, right? Here's me healing. I have no debuff. Obviously, it's full. A lot of people think that heal would be cut, the 2nd one from bottom out there. He is naked, that's why his heal's so much less. That one actually doesn't get cut because the debuff isn't on me yet. It's the 3rd heal that comes in that will get cut by healing sickness, as you can see here. And just like focus fire and resilience, right, you don't want your tanks or just healers or anybody auto-attacking people because that makes it harder for them to die. Healing with especially this debuff works the same. If somebody's full HP, don't heal them. Not only is it a waste of mana, put stuff on CD, but you will hold healing sickness and you'll never lose this debuff. So you're just hurting your own zerg, you're hurting your other healers, you're hurting your other supports for no reason if they're full HP. Just don't heal people at full HP. Now think of focus fire, people are more familiar with that. It's tied to the individual healer and it backtracks 8 seconds, the length of the debuff. So we both heal myself here, which means in this 8-second window, if anyone heals me, it will refresh this. He heals me, it refreshes it. Now in this 8-second window, since it's refreshed, he's the only one healing me. Which means if he heals me, it will not refresh, it will not increase it, and he can heal me for free at this point. And I think here's one of the issues with it, is it's more UI than anything. Once you get healed, you may not have the debuff yet, but the process to get the debuff has already started, right? So I just got healed by Battle Mod only. Now if anyone but him heals me in 8 seconds, I still get the debuff. And there's no real way to show that, unfortunately, so I think that's why it's kind of a UI issue. But it's also why you just don't heal full people. The holies are pretty simple. You heal somebody, and the second you stop healing them, that 8-second timer for sickness to fall off has started. However, nature doesn't work like that, because they have rejuve stacks, they got flower, they got breeze. A lot of the E's like blight are channel or wild, which is hot on the ground, rampant, hot on the ground. Those work a little different. So let's start with just the blighty, because I feel like it's easier to see and talk about. So I get healed by a holy Q here, and now I'm going to channel my blighty, which is 5.6 seconds. But because I started it in the 8-second window of getting that holy Q, it won't start to fall off until after my channel has expired, thus extending healing sickness by 5.6 seconds. So let's talk about the hot part. Doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 3 stacks. They all last 8 seconds. So here I get healed, I get sickness, now I have the hots on me. Healing sickness can't start to fall off until the last tick of that hot. So by having a hot on you, you effectively doubled the duration of healing sickness. So you have to ask yourself in that situation, is it worth doubling the duration of this debuff for a hot? And that's assuming no other 3rd or 4th healer has healed you in that new 8-second window that you created because of the hot. So you can see how having, a flower or a breeze go through your zerg, plus just a couple random Qs now that the holy Q has been changed, really can affect how long that healing sickness debuff's going to be running through your zerg. So let's talk about ways we can kind of manage it. First, let's show what not to do for holies specifically here. If people haven't taken damage, like that orb, why are we using it? That's just starting or spreading healing sickness, or Qs, or Es, right? It's really pretty simple. If someone doesn't need a heal, don't heal them, because that wastes a lot of resources, puts abilities on CD, and, as we previously talked about, starts or increases healing sickness. So, for holies, it's pretty easy. Just don't heal people who don't need heals. Now for nature, that one's a little bit tougher. So I don't have a clip for Blighty, but I got this, which is probably your average flower player, right? They just kind of throw Qs on full HP people and, give leaves to everybody, which is starting healing sickness, making everybody's life a lot harder. But let's pretend it's a Blighty. One way you could manage healing sickness, for Blighty in particular, is when you're using your E, if everybody's full HP, cancel it. That will allow your healing sickness to fall off quicker than if you just full channel on top of full HP people taking no damage. So I hope that made sense. I'll try my best to explain it. I know I'm not the best. I maybe missed something here or there, but if I did, go ahead and leave it in the comments. But now I'm just going to talk about some things I would suggest zergs do, something we're doing right now. We're going to try to implement a couple other things. First one we've been doing for at least a season, maybe 2 seasons now, is I've actually just dropped a nature healer. You don't really need one anymore, and you haven't needed one. The quality of brawl groups just isn't there and hasn't been for a while, so nature being just better against brawl, if you're not fighting majority brawl groups or good brawl groups, you really don't need a nature to counteract that, especially if you're just playing against permacomps or just playing against clap, even walk-in clap. You really just need holies who aren't overhealing and healing at the correct time, and you're going to be just fine. So we've dropped the nature, and comps are pretty player dependent, so I'd be careful with this next one, but it's something we've done a couple times and probably going to push for a little bit more, because we're actually just going to drop it down to 3 healers per 20. Heals aren't the reason you live or die in a clump, the least effective way to mitigate damage in Albion. So by dropping 1 healer, you don't actually lose anything on your own clumps. It just can potentially slow up your heals in the back, but if you permanently have healing sickness because your healers, especially your holies now, are just Q spamming, you'll never get rid of the healing sickness debuff. Plus you add in every zerg running Hellfires, you got most zergs running Dawn Songs, you even get occasional zergs running Flame Bazzy. Your heals on a clump don't do as much as they used to anymore. The biggest thing is just don't overheal. You're just making it harder for yourself, all your other healers and supports later by not letting his sickness fall off. But that's kind of just what we're thinking, what I'm thinking. As a zerg, you got to do what you can with your players, right? Maybe you don't have the best healers, so going down to 3 just isn't an option. You need 4 healers, because maybe 1 or 2 are slow or new or whatever the case may be. So do what you got to do for your zerg. This video is just out there to explain how healing sickness works, because to my knowledge there's not a video out there that explains it, and hopefully this at least clarifies it, so as a zerg you can work on reducing the amount of time your zerg has healing sickness, which will dramatically increase how many clumps you can soak, because you don't have this debuff on you anymore.